everybody, welcome to the Oldish. If you're getting older, and who isn't, then the Oldish is the place to be because here we talk about everything aging, from retirement and planning through aging in place, long-term care, and end-of-life issues. My name is Karen Brown. I'm the publisher and editor of the Oldish, and today we're going to talk about the number one threat to your independence as you age in place: falls. Now, we've talked about falls before here on this show. Several times they've been mentioned, but falls being the number one threat to your independence means that it is worth discussing again and again and again. Now, 50% of falls happen in the home. That's a pretty high number to happen in the home and potentially unobserved. If you live by yourself, or if you live with a partner or a roommate who is away frequently, then a fall that happens may be a fall that you need to extricate yourself from. So that's a very important thing. Number one for you to learn is how to get up off the floor once you've had a fall. Now, if you've had a fall and you've broken a hip or something, of course, that's a completely different matter, but you do have to know how to call for help. Practice is something that you should be doing. You should practice laying on the floor and getting yourself up. For some people, they can just sit up. Others will find it easier to roll over onto their hands and knees and stand up from there, or maybe scoot over to a couch and use that to help them get up. Still, other people will be able to roll their entire bodies and sort of move like a seal to a chair or a counter or a table and help themselves get up. But you do have to be able to get yourself up somehow, some way. They're actually running classes, I believe it's in the UK, teaching people how to fall and then subsequently how to get up. So the inability to get up off of the floor after a fall is something that is a high risk factor for injuries and admission to long-term care. So it is a good thing to be able to learn how to get yourself up off of the floor. Beyond that, what can you do to advocate for yourself? Because you're living this potentially long life and you want to do it successfully. And if you're like me and most people, you absolutely want to be sure that you have the ability to remain independent. Exercise. Exercise is something that you can do on a daily basis that moves you further and further toward your goal of being strong and independent and being able to withstand the effects of a fall and even prevent it to begin with. So exercises that focus on balance, stability, and resistance are the kinds of exercises you want to do. Resistance because it builds your strength. If you're using bands, for instance, to build up that resistance, that's a good thing. Balance and stability are very important, so exercises like yoga and Tai Chi are very important. Walking or dancing is also good because it gets that cardiac rate up. Good thing. Exercises should always be done standing wherever possible for maximum benefit. Now, over time, a study that is recently out of Australia tells us that doing these exercises over time can result in up to a 23% reduction in falls. That's pretty good, right? 23%. If you live in a community that makes lessons available at the rec center or at an exercise place or an older adults club or group, look for things like yoga and Tai Chi, as we have mentioned, walking groups, dance classes. You want to do those dance classes? If you are based in your house, let's say you live in a rural environment or someplace in the Northeast that experiences winter, like I do, and you're quite often homebound because the weather is not so cooperative, I'm going to point you toward a series of exercises that are available on the oldish.com. Now, you do need to create an account to get into the toolkit, so it's in the top menu bar. You'll see a little drop-down box called Toolkit. You will need an account to get into all of those resources that are behind that toolkit. Some of the resources are going to require you to enter personal information, and that's none of anybody's business. For instance, there's the medication checklist we'll talk about a little later, and it's really none of anybody's business what's going on there, what articles you might have saved, because there's a library where you can do that. Anyway, in this toolkit, you will find a link to a series of exercises. They were developed by Dr. Vicki Scott and her team. Dr. Scott is a doctor who has worked on the west coast of Canada for her entire career, and she has been very focused on fall and injury prevention. So they have developed these exercises and very kindly allowed the Oldish to put them on our website for your benefit. So there are 3 levels of exercises there. Sitting, for people who are in wheelchairs or haven't the wherewithal to stand up, there are exercises for you. You're not off the hook. Standing exercises, so those are exercises that you can do hanging onto a countertop or a table and just stand in place and have the movements play through. Or moving. So for people who are able to move about, these are good exercises for you. All 3 levels are there for you and they're free. Make use of those. Now, if you're a YouTuber, then you can look on YouTube because there are Tai Chi and yoga exercises, there are resistance exercises, there are lots of different exercises. You kind of have to separate the wheat from the chaff, so do read the reviews. I'm not going to point you to anything specific other than what's on our website because those we have vetted. So take a look at those. Exercise is also good for heart health. And it's good for cognitive ability as well. So you want to make sure that you are exercising every day. The recommendation is 150 minutes of exercise per week. If you can do more, that's good, but please try to do at least 150 minutes of exercise every week. Eat a healthy diet. Your body needs the right kind of fuel to keep it going. We posted an article maybe a month or a month and a half ago on the website about tea and toast syndrome. So a lot of people who live alone sort of content themselves with making tea and toast, just enough to fill up their stomach so they don't feel hungry. Tea and toast is fine from time to time. It's not an ongoing meal, and you need ongoing healthy food to keep your body fueled. The Mediterranean diet is the one that, above all, is the #1 diet for 2019. It's been in that position for a few years now. So check out the Mediterranean diet and make sure that you have the right kind of fuel. Hydration goes along with that. Make sure you're drinking enough water. I know there are people who have issues with incontinence, so you want to make sure that you stop drinking a certain number of hours before you go to bed at night so that you do get that good night's sleep, because you need that too. That's going to vary for everybody. For some people, it's 3 hours before you go to bed. For others, it's 4 hours. Start drinking your liquids early in the day and get them in as much as possible so that your body stays hydrated. Okay, that's a good thing. Be socially engaged. Your mind needs to be engaged with other people. You need those endorphins to snap in your brain, which they do when you have face-to-face conversations with people. So every time you go to the drugstore, every time you go to the grocery store, you go to the post office to pick up your mail, or you're just out for a walk and you meet a neighbor on the street, those kinds of interactions are really, really good for you. So you need to make sure that they stay a part of your life. Again, in the winter months, if you can't get out, something like FaceTime or Skype is a good alternative. It's not as good as face-to-face, but it is still a good alternative to keep you engaged. Medications. We were going to talk about this when I referred to the medication checklist. Now's your time. Medications are a huge factor in falls, and you need to make sure that you have and keep a medication checklist handy. If you don't have one, a list that you've just written down on paper yourself, you can go to our website at theoldish.com, and in that toolkit is a medication checklist in the drop-down box. You can fill it in, you can print it out, you can save it there, you can email it, you can do umpteen things with it, but it is a really good tool to keep your medications current and to make sure that you can have timely conversations with your doctor and your pharmacist about the medications you're taking. Clean the clutter in your house. This is a really big thing, really big thing. In fact, there's a doctor out in BC, in Fraser Health Authority, Dr. Fabio Feldman, who has written a book for young children to be able to read and take to their grandparents' house and help them clean away the clutter. Because as Dr. Feldman said, you know what it's like when we brought in recycling and taught the little kids how to recycle, they would call the older adults on their behavior every time they failed to recycle something properly. So, when you get the little kids educated, they know. But clean up the clutter in your house. Get rid of throw rugs. Oh my gosh, get rid of throw rugs. I've said that umpteen times. It bears repeating. They are the devil incarnate. They are so dangerous. You can trip over them, but you can slide on them as well. And I'm not one for saying just tape them down. Get rid of them altogether. Tuck cords away. Ensure that your pathways are properly lit. Now, in the ebook that I'm writing on preparing your home for aging in place, I talk about overhead lighting, I talk about task lighting. One of the things that's equally important is that your pathways be lit. So think about your pathways to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Think about your pathway to the kitchen in the evening. You're in the family room or the living room watching a little TV before bed. It's dark outside. You want to go to the kitchen to have a little snack or put a plate away. That pathway needs to be properly lit. The pathway to your door needs to be lit so that if somebody comes and knocks on the door, you can see where you're going. Okay, your pathways have to be properly lit. You need to consider perhaps swapping out those deep, cushy sofas and chairs that you may have loved in your 20s and 30s, but they don't serve you well when you're in your 70s and 80s, maybe even in your 60s for some of you. The deeper the cushion is, the higher you have to climb out of it. And it's not always easy if you have challenges getting up and out of chairs and sofas. So do take a look at those cushions. Make sure they're not too cushy. You want to be able to get out. Check the tread on your shoes and your boots and your slippers. I know you've got those beloved slippers that you schlop around the house in all day long. If they've got a shiny bottom, they're a trip hazard. And sadly, they need to find their way to slipper heaven. You need to get yourself a new pair of slippers that have proper tread. Your shoes and your boots, it's also important to have them have proper tread. If you're uncertain about whether your tread is adequate, take your footwear to your local shoe store and ask them. Pretty simple. Organize your kitchens and closets so that frequently used items are within easy reach. Now, I know that all of us organize our kitchens with, the dinner plates are here, the luncheon plates are here, the bread and butter plates are here, and the glasses are organized according to size and type and purpose. You kind of have to put that thinking aside, and you have to think about the things that you use most often. Would you use a place setting of, a dinner plate and a bread and butter plate and a particular glass and a mug more often than you would use anything else that's in your cupboards? If so, keep them handy, keep them within easy reach. This is not to say keep them on the countertop and clutter up your counters, although if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But to keep them within easy reach, the things you use constantly, you're not having to reach up for or climb up for, which is even worse. Learn to ask for help. So things like changing light bulbs that are in the ceiling, putting up Christmas decorations, putting that star on top of the tree, accessing things that are seldom used, shoveling sidewalks, doing heavy lifting or gardening, all of these things, you need to make a to-do list. And the next time an adult child comes over, get them to help you with it and get them to do the things that put you at risk of falling. Train yourself to turn lights on when you get up in the night to go to the bathroom. That's a hard one, particularly if you have a partner and you don't want to wake them up. Trust me, they'll go back to sleep. If they're not somebody who will go back to sleep easily, then get them a sleep mask, an eye mask to wear. But Really, it's very important for your pathway to be lit when you go to the bathroom in the night. Now, I have done a review on a light. It's called the owl light that automatically senses motion and turns on. To this day, I use one in my house because I think they're really good. And it does see the motion and it lights my path to the bathroom in the night. Going up dark hallways as well, if you have motion sensitive lights, they can be helpful. Reduce the number of bed linens and blankets that are on your bed that might tangle you up. You know, when you wake up in the night and you really have to go to the bathroom, but you've got to extricate yourself from all of this stuff and like you've really got to go. So you might be hurrying a little bit more than you should hurry. So this business of being tangled up in sheets and blankets doesn't serve you well. You need to make sure that you have exactly what you need. On my bed, I have a sheet, I have a blanket, and I have a duvet. So the three things. And the duvet often gets kicked off if I'm too warm. So then I have two. But really, I've had that for a long time. So I know there are no more than three. And I know what each one feels like. So I can make sure that I can peel them off myself easily. A lot of people really like having multiple blankets, though. Back in the day, that was the thing to do. Before duvets came on big in households, they had just blanket after blanket after blanket after blanket. And that's a lot to get yourself tangled up in because through the night, you're tossing some of them off, you're bringing some of them on. They do get tangled up, and you want to make sure that you're not the one tangled up in them. Install grab bars in appropriate places. And I'm going to do you even one better here. Have a contractor install them because it's not good enough to just put them in drywall. They will not bear your weight, and you need them in case you're going to fall. You need to have something that you're going to grab that's going to be strong and safe and secure in the event you feel yourself falling. So you can look at having grab bars by the toilet, by the tub and or shower, by the sink in case you feel a little lightheaded. You can have them by the back door or the front door, wherever you put your shoes on or off, entering or exiting the houses. Okay, in the kitchen is also a place potentially where you need grab bars. And if you're not ready to give up those cushy sofas, there are grab bars that install floor to ceiling. They're on springs and they have a grab bar in the middle that you can grab onto and pull yourself up out of that cushy sofa that I've already told you to get rid of, but you haven't. Okay? Make sure railings are secure. If you've had railings in your on your steps outside for like 40 years, or the stairs going down to the basement, you need to make sure that you give those a shake. And if they move at all, they need to be re-secured. That could mean it all needs to come off and the holes filled in, and they need to be reinstalled. Make sure that they are safe because you don't want to have to reach out for something if you feel yourself falling and have it give way. All right, that's very important. The railings outside, and again, particularly for those of you who live in the Northeast where there's bad weather, ice and snow and such, that needs to be really steady for you going down those stairs, which can get very icy. Keep your walkers and canes in good repair. Now, we posted something a short while ago on our Facebook that talked about a woman who had fallen, and EMS workers went to see her, and she did everything right. She was reaching for a cell phone, and she put the brakes on her walker, and as she reached for the cell phone, the walker tipped over. It turned out that there was something mechanically not right with the walker, and the EMS workers fixed it, so now when she puts her brakes on, the thing really is braked, and she can safely move about her house. So make sure you're doing that. There are a lot of reasons why you might look at this period of time as a time when you should consider living in another place. If you're still living in the family home and it's 2 stories, or you have to go downstairs to the laundry, give serious thought to whether that's the place where you can successfully age in place. You want to move before something happens and you are forced to move. You want to do it yourself, make the choice yourself, stay independent yourself. So think ahead about how the stairs are going to impact your ability to move about the house safely. Think about the time when you have to give up your driver's license and whether that home is in the right place to serve you as you move forward. Think about how you're going to get to appointments, how you're going to get to the grocery store, how you're going to get to the pharmacy. You need to think about all of these things. And there are a lot of reasons why um, the home that we raised our children in may not be the home that we should be staying in. Believe me, I think about that too. The home where I am currently living is the home I raised my children in. Now it's one story. I don't have a basement that I have to go downstairs to do my laundry, but you know, there are things about that house that will not serve me well as I move forward in my life. And I think about it. Believe me, I do. Um, so I'm not telling you to do anything that I'm not doing myself. Believe me. Falls are a very important reason to look at where you live and how you live, because they are the thing that will change your life the most dramatically, the fastest. So please do consider all of these things that we've talked about. And that will be it for today's show. Now, if you are on Facebook, please like us and follow us and read our stories that we post there. You can look for our stories daily on the oldish.com. We publish it on 6 different channels on the oldish.com. We're also on Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest. We are all the places where you love to be. So I do hope that you will join us in any of those places, and I specifically hope that you will join us next Wednesday at 12 noon for another edition of The Oldish. Until then, be well, and do remember that it takes a village to age a senior.